Consumers are curious. Whether we are talking about up-and-coming cosmetics lines, online shopping options, or health trends, consumers are keen to try out something new. In this webinar, we will provide you with insights on trending ideas and consumer demands within the coffee, non-alcoholic beverage, and cannabis realms. We will also reference the key driving forces impacting each topic before we dive into it. My name is Emma Bedford, and I am the Senior Team Lead of the Food Consumer Goods and Agriculture Research Team at Statista. I am lucky enough to be joined by one of my research experts today, who will guide you through the key developments in the coffee markets and sober curious movements. I will be popping back at the end to finish with a bold new idea for Germany, and perhaps one day, Europe as a whole: the legalization of recreational cannabis.
Thank you, Emma. Hi, I'm Eloïse Trenda, research expert on food, consumer goods, and agriculture. So, the first item on our agenda today is coffee trends. The main drivers behind this topic are experience, economic pressure, and sustainability. The coffee industry is a lucrative one. The global market value exceeded $88 billion in 2023 and was largely driven by the roasted coffee segment. It is also predicted to continue growing in the next few years. This is no surprise, as coffee enthusiasts are always on the lookout for new ways to make their daily caffeine intake an experience. If we step back in time for a second, we can clearly see how trends-driven the market is. Some of these phenomena come and went. For example, the unicorn latte craze was everywhere in 2017. But when was the last time you saw a picture of the multicolored beverage on your timeline, though? Other trends, however, have struck gold and have even become an annual staple, with the pumpkin spice latte making a comeback every year in fall without fail since 2003. Among all these developments, nitro coffee has emerged as a standout innovation. Inspired by the dispensing process of nitro beer, nitro coffee combines the qualities of a cold brew with a nitrogen infusion, giving the beverage a creamy texture, a special aroma, as well as an uncanny resemblance to a pint of Guinness. An added bonus is that nitro coffee does not need any additives, such as milk or sugar, which echoes health-conscious consumer trends. Another reason why nitro coffee is showing up on the industry's radar lately is because it is a more innovative take on the already established cold brew. The latter has recently been enjoying its moment in the sun, and coffee companies are riding that wave and trying to expand and introduce variation of this refreshing beverage as much as they can. We should, however, keep in mind the current context and how it may challenge and impact coffee trends. Whether in supermarkets or restaurants, it's hard to miss how much prices have increased compared to a few years ago. In response to this high inflation and tighter budgets, coffee consumers are getting more and more curious about affordable options, and some are even trying to cut costs by recreating the coffee shop experience at home, for example. Climate change poses another significant threat to the industry. As extreme weather events and natural disaster become more frequent, coffee crops are facing increased vulnerability, which is in turn expected to influence coffee prices. Projections are suggesting an average price rise to almost $14 per unit by 2028. Ethically sourcing beans, using eco-friendly packaging, and promoting reusable cups are currently being explored by climate change activists as possible helpful measures to aid with the situation. Both challenges are of course related to one another. What is left to see is how industry players will increase sustainability efforts across the whole industry, and whether they'll find ways to answer consumers' thirst for innovation and experience, but at an affordable price point. As we've seen in the first part, the curious consumer of 2024 is taking many elements into account on their quest for new experiences. Another one of these is their journey into sober curiosity. Here, our main drivers are health, and experience. You may wonder what the sober curious movement exactly is. In short, sober curiosity promotes a lifestyle free from alcohol while also being inclusive of those who do not feel like giving up drinking altogether. Sober curious culture encourages more flexibility and mindfulness regarding alcohol consumption. The drinking experience is seen as a more intentional decision rather than being driven by social pressure. An example of this movement is the Dry January Challenge, with which you're all probably familiar. As you can see here with the Dry January, younger generations are particularly active in this challenge, and this trend can be witnessed across the sober curious movement at large. One of the reasons why this movement is more widespread among millennials and Gen Z is that a lot of it takes place online. Young adults are actively engaging there with hashtags like hashtag Dry January, hashtag Sober Curious, or hashtag mocktails. And these have gathered millions of views on Instagram and TikTok alike. Even dating apps are seeing the potential in this cultural shift. For example, Bumble joined the Sober Curious game by introducing the Sober Badge in late 2021. While clearly visible online, this phenomenon is not only happening on social media, but has concrete and measurable consequences on the whole industry. As you can see, non-alcoholic segments have all recorded substantial growth in sales in recent years. Here, the non-alcoholic beer segment may look like it's lagging behind, but let's not forget that this segment is more established than the other two. Now, the challenge for industry leaders is to respond to consumers' demands, consumers who may not wish to make compromises anymore. This involves working on taste and flavor so that low and non-alcoholic beverages can match their alcoholic counterparts, but also innovating in terms of ingredients and branding. Indeed, the low alcohol or non-alcoholic versions of classic beverages are still generating way less revenue than their boozy equivalents. Actually, right now, it is mocktails that are getting more attention, especially online. You may have seen some version of the Sleepy Girl mocktail on TikTok, for example. This viral drink combines sparkling water, cherry juice, and magnesium powder, while other versions ask for prebiotic seltzer or swap the magnesium for some collagen powder. In any case, the inclusion of a health-related ingredient is always a must. While the trend technically started last year, it has truly been taking off this past January, and it is probably a matter of finding the right hashtag before the next recipe, inspired by this mocktail, becomes the next big thing. At the end of the day, this shift is leading to a new era in the beverage industry, where the focus is now on quality and experience, regardless of alcohol content.
Now, moving on to a smoking hot industry, which could soon see changes in legislation in Europe and levels of interest amongst consumers, recreational cannabis. The key driving influences in this industry are health and disruption. Before we take a look at what consumers think and want, let's take a deeper dive into the proposed legislation slowly making its way through the German legal system and where it is at the moment. The debate of the so-called legalization light bill began in the German parliament in October 2023. The key aims of the law are to limit black market operations and protect younger members of society. What does the original bill entail? Two main pillars are making up the basis of the bill. First, self-cultivation and cannabis social clubs. It's intended that adults will legally be able to privately cultivate up to 3 cannabis plants for non-commercial and personal use. So-called cultivation associations will also be set up with a specific membership base. We reported last year that self-cultivation was expected to be written into law at the beginning of 2024. However, this is likely no longer the case, as the vote on the law in the German parliament was nowhere to be seen on the agenda in December 2023. Additionally, recent criticism from the Federal Criminal Police Office focuses on the unsustainable increased workload for law enforcement due to potentially unclear regulations, holes in the legal framework, and increased costs. Internal concerns have also been raised within the leading party themselves, the Social Democratic Party, potentially pushing the vote back even further. However, the bill has continued support from the other two parties within the coalition, the Greens and the Free Democratic Party. The second pillar, and what most consumers may consider a key part of true legalization, is the Regional Commercial Pilot Program. This is a model project where some companies can produce, distribute, and sell recreational cannabis. This is, however, seen as a much longer-term goal, as it is planned to be tried out over a 5-year period, and so may not be expanded until 2029 at the earliest. It's yet to be known when the program will be rolled out. Unsurprisingly, the topic is also quite split amongst the German population. In an ongoing annual survey, consumer opinion has become more and more polarized on the topic. When surveyed in 2023, the same share of respondents agreed and disagreed with the prospect of legalization. So whichever way the bill goes, a large share of the population, at least those surveyed, will be unhappy with the result. Cannabis usage trends among young people is something we can use to gauge the direction of consumer opinion in the future. Every 2 years, the German Federal Center for Health Education surveys young people on their consumption habits of various substances. The share of respondents who reported cannabis use, especially those aged between 18 and 25, has risen dramatically in recent years. A low of 19.8% was reported in 1976. By 2021, this had risen to over half of the surveyed population in that age bracket. It could be expected that pressure for full-scale legalization will only increase as these consumers take further steps into adulthood. A collection of surveys from around Europe can also be used to paint a picture of where hotspots of curiosity about the cannabis market could pop up in the coming years. Self-reported lifetime use of either medical or recreational cannabis was at its highest in France. Almost half of the surveyed population, which was made up of adults aged between 15 and 64, had consumed cannabis in some form at least once in their life. The Mediterranean neighbour, Spain, ranked in second place with 40.9%. Germany and Italy followed. On the other end of the scale, Turkish respondents reported lowest lifetime use at 2.7%. Luxembourg, Romania, and Hungary had the next lowest level of reported usage. Let's end the segment by taking a look at a more developed but also equally complicated recreational cannabis market, the US, where consumption remains illegal at a federal level, but individual states can legalize consumption with their own laws and policies. As of November 2023, recreational and medicinal cannabis was legalized in 24 states plus the District of Columbia. California was the first state to legalize cannabis for medicinal purposes way back in 1996. Policies progressed to allow recreational consumption by 2016. In 2022, the total taxable sales value of cannabis in California reached just over $5.3 billion. Although this is a decrease on the previous year, it's an increase of over 160% since 2018. If Germany were to follow in the Californians' footsteps, the market potential would be huge. Consumers are feeling the pinch when the total price for their shopping basket is rung up at the supermarket till. The Food Price Index, which is an average of 5 commodity group price indices, meat, dairy, cereals, vegetable oil, and sugar, reached new heights throughout 2022. It has since dropped in 2023, but remains elevated above 100, which means that prices are still increasing. However, for those who shop for cannabis in the US, they might actually be feeling some light relief in their wallets. The cannabis market is proving to be fairly resilient against price increases. As we can see here, the wholesale price of 1 pound of cannabis has seen a downward trend in the past 3 years. We had a slight uptick in 2024, but this is a minimal increase compared to the new higher prices that consumers are paying for day-to-day goods. Thank you so much for watching. Every year, we take a close look at what is shaping the future of consumption and put together a comprehensive review of the biggest upcoming consumer trends to help you to navigate a dynamic and changing consumer base. We have linked our Consumer Trends report for 2024 in the description for you to take a look at. We're already looking forward to tracking the trends for 2025 and keeping you updated in a report later this year.
Make sure you sign up for all future webinars with Statista, including 2 further 2024 Consumer Trends installments. Until then, stay curious.